Hey team, I hope you're having a great day. Hope your training is going well. Hope you're healthy. I wanted to talk today on how breaking the sub 2 hour 20-minute marathon changed my viewpoint of racing and what it is to not only prepare physically for a race, but to uh, prepare mentally and to do something that you potentially you didn't really even think that you were able to do. When I broke 2 hours and 20 minutes for the marathon in 2007, it was a combined effort from training from 1992 all the way to 2007. And in sharing this with you, I hope that it'll help motivate you to achieve whatever you're going for. Whether you're trying to break a 4 hour marathon, you're trying to break 40 minutes for the 10K, you're trying to break 16 minutes for the 5K, whatever your goal is. Just hearing this, I hope, inspires you and motivates you. I didn't have a great deal of talent. I had what I had was the willingness to fight and stay focused for many years to get to a point where I could run 5:19 mile pace for 26.2 miles. And it was not easy. It was the most difficult thing I ever did in terms of an athlete in my entire career. There were many times I had doubts and concerns that maybe the marathon was not for me and that maybe I was more of a middle distance athlete. But when I got to a point where I could run an hour and 7 minutes and 6 seconds for the half marathon, I knew that I could put together what was my goal of breaking 2 hours and 22 minutes. Whatever you're going for, you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice a great deal of your time, energies. You're going to have to learn time management. I already know that the athletes that are on this channel, whether you're brand new to the sport or you're experienced, you're already driven, you're already motivated, you already know what it takes to succeed. You have that willingness to put in the effort for a long period of time. And the faster you're trying to run, the more that's going to be required out of you. And there were times where, my first marathon, if just for background information, my first marathon was the 2002 New York City Marathon. I was a part of a Armed Forces charity team where we weren't allowed to start the race until every runner had crossed the start line. And so I started in 32,189th place, finished in 257th place with a time of 2 hours, 43 minutes, and 36 seconds. At that time, the farthest I had ever raced was a half marathon. I ran a 1:13:02 when I was in college, and I had run a 53:21 at the 2002 Army 10 miler. It was my first year in the military, so I was called just to say, hey, we got a competitive runner. Would you like to be on this team that's going to New York City? So long story short, moved up to the top finisher of the team in 2 hours, 43 minutes, and 36 seconds. That being said, it took me several tries from 2002 to 2007 to get to a point where I could run under 5:20 mile pace. And I get asked a lot, like, how did you go from 2:43:36, which is 6:14 mile pace, all the way to 5:19 mile pace? It's a drastic drop in time. I always, the most important thing I think that helped me get to a point where I could break the sub 2 hour 20-minute marathon was the changing up how I was doing those long runs. I talk about in other videos how I construct the training plans I have on RunDreamAchieve.com and the running courses that I've created, which are more tutorials. They're video tutorials. They're more of like a motivation, like a one-on-one coaching, consulting session with you and I as the coach and athlete. But the biggest difference between what I was doing in the past and what I did to get to a point where I could break 2 hours and 20 minutes for the marathon was I stopped doing long runs relaxed and easy. And even when in the past, when I was running long runs, they were still quality. I mean, I was running 6:30 a 7-minute mile pace. But what I was trying to do is I had a goal of breaking 2 hours and 22 minutes. To do that, you need to run 5:25 per mile pace. So doing 22 to 24 mile long runs at 7-minute mile pace is, yes, it's going to create a physiological effect. It's going to increase your endurance. But it's not going to prepare the athlete to race and to sustain race pace at that type of pace for long periods of time, 42.2 kilometers, 26.2 miles. So if you're having issues with your marathon, maybe you're stuck at a specific time, look at how you've been constructing those long runs. Look at how you've been doing those long runs in the past. Have they been too aerobic? If they have been, and you're running too easy for too many weeks on end routinely, yes, it's going to make you very strong endurance-wise, but in the marathon, and especially the faster you're trying to race, you have to learn how to handle high levels of lactic acid buildup. And how to clear that faster than it's building up takes very intense anaerobic training. It also takes easy, relaxed aerobic training as well. You do have to allot the proper amount of time to recover from these hard efforts. You can't just continue to push the body hard every single weekend for your long runs. You can't continue to push your body hard, routinely each week, unless you are allotting the proper amount of time to run relaxed and easy so you can get back out and attack the harder workouts again. Breaking 2 hours and 20 minutes, the 2007 California International Marathon was the highlight of my career. I'm not saying my career is over yet. I mean, I'm 45 now. I did that. I ran the 2:19:35 when I was 31 years old. I do still have goals. I haven't competed in a marathon since 2013. And that was a 2:32:55 I ran at the California International Marathon, where I ran the 2:19:35 back in 2007. The paces I was at in that race when I ran 2:19:35 was, the splits that I remember, was 51:27 at 10 miles. I hit the half marathon point at 1:07:09, and even if you look back at old race results online from that race, you'll see the splits. And we were at 1:07:09 at the half, and keep in mind my personal best is 1:07:06, 1:44:05 at 20 miles, so I was still at 2:15 marathon pace through the 20 mile mark. I think that's around a 5:11 mile pace, 2:15 high, 2:15 mid, around that range. It was the last 10K, I was starting to slow pretty significantly, running 5:40s and 30s, which averaged out to 5:19. My sharing my story with you is just I hope just to empower you, to discuss with you the importance of sticking to your goal for a long enough period of time. What you're going for, all of you, I know is difficult. It's tough to get out the door when you're by yourself, when the conditions suck. It's hard to do workouts when you're not very fit anaerobically, and you start to second guess yourself. You start to worry, like, maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe I'm not a long distance runner and more suited for middle distance running. And maybe you are, but quick results don't always come. We don't always achieve our end goal in the time that we're expecting it. When I ran 2:43:36 in New York City, it was a very difficult course, great competition. My starting place obviously was horrible, but it was a great experience to get out and run a marathon for the first time. But after I ran that race, I was wanting to run 2:22, and I really wanted to do it the following year. And I didn't realize the huge amount of time I was expecting out of myself to drop. It took me another 5 years, over 5 years, to go from 2:43:36 to 2:19:35. So don't give up when you are having some setbacks or you're continuing to miss your time. Continue to stay the course. Look at what you're doing in training. If you're running too many kilometers or too many miles too slow in your training preparation, that could be a big red flag of the reason why you're not sustaining pace for your chosen distance. If it's the marathon, if it's the half marathon, it's the 10K, if it's middle distance races, you have to work on your speed development. Even for long races, for 10K to the marathon, we all, especially if you're more of a long distance runner, you probably have more slow twitch muscle fibers and a much smaller percentage of fast twitch muscle fibers comprised in your body and how you're physiologically built. But we can always focus on speed development. because you have to have the speed, you have to have the strength and stamina to run a great marathon. And you have to have that strength and stamina and endurance to race well, regardless if it's the mile, the 800, the 1500, the 3K, the 5K, 10K, half marathon, or marathon, or longer. So you have to have a white hot, razor sharp, focused drive, motivation to not give up when you have setbacks. It's part of the puzzle. And most athletes that truly want success have that do whatever it takes attitude. I know the athletes and the people that are new to this channel, they want success. They want to learn. They are focused on personal development. They are hungry for getting better and learning how to be more efficient and more effective when they race, how to be more efficient and effective when they train, and learning more about mental training. You know, when I was a 2:43 marathoner, it was like second nature to think that I had already broken 2 hours and 22 minutes. The reason why I wanted to run under 2 hours and 22 minutes was because back in 2007, that was the USA Track and Field Olympic Trials B standard time. So you needed to run at least at a minimum a 5:25 per mile pace over the marathon distance in order to qualify for the 2008 USA Track and Field Olympic Trials, which were held actually in November of 2007 in New York City. When I ran 2:19:35, I failed in Chicago. I ran 2:51 in Chicago in 2007, 3 months prior to running 2:19:35. So there's a lesson there. Look at the massive difference. It was the worst. It was running a fast marathon comes down to also landing on the right day. If you're a hot weather runner, cold weather may affect you. If you're a cold weather runner like myself, hot weather drastically affects you. Chicago was a horrible day. It was the worst. Back in 2007, it was the highest temperatures in the race's history. My respect and kudos to all of you who can race well in the heat. I'm not one of those athletes. I've never have been phenomenal, especially if it's anything really over 5K. I'm not really that great in the heat, especially in the marathon distance. I hit the first half in 1:11, and I pretty much walked and jogged the last 14 miles of the race because the U.S. Army, it was my second marathon for the U.S. Army World Class Athlete Program. They paid my flight out to Chicago from Colorado Springs, so I had to finish the race. I couldn't drop out of the race. If it was my choice, I would have probably called it a day at the half marathon point. You have to take your licks. You have to earn your stripes in the marathon distance or any race. None of us get to the elite level in anything that we do unless you gotta be tenacious about what you're doing. Huge risk to go out in 1:07:09 with the lead Kenyans in that race, knowing that my personal best was 1:07:06. And to be honest, I wasn't wearing a watch. I recommend the same for you. If you are 100% fit, you've done your homework and training, you've put in the work, you need to be focused on the race. You need to be focused on how your body's feeling, staying as relaxed as you can in the race, monitoring how the athletes that you're running with, if you're feeling phenomenal, you need to make a move. And when you make that move, make it decisive. You know, if you're going to make a move in the race, you have to be willing to take the chance that you may slow down. You have to watch your pacing early on in the races as well. But sometimes, if you are extremely physically fit and mentally prepared, you can go out and race a marathon pretty much like I did, and even run much faster than I did. There are athletes all over the world that run well under 2 hours and 19 minutes for the marathon. But whatever your particular capability is at this point, whether it's your personal best is 5 hours and 2 minutes and you're trying to get to 3:59, or you're at 50 minutes for 10K and you're trying to get to 42 minutes, whatever it is, you have to prepare in training in such a way that you're going to get that race pace to feel easier so that you can sustain that effort throughout the race and not for a portion of the race. When I ran 2:19:35, I was ready. I was without a doubt ready. I blocked out what the lead Kenyans. In fact, I remember in the tent prior to the start of the race, I remember the Kenyans they were all talking together, and I remember them saying, when we get to the half marathon point, it's going to be all Kenya. That was their exact words. And I was thinking, okay, well, I got another thing in mind for you gentlemen. I'm ready to go. It wasn't a cocky thing, but it was a confident. You have to get to a point, and you build that confidence and motivation and willingness to take the risks from your preparation. So don't give up when you're out there and you don't have a teammate to push you, and the weather isn't cooperating. Know that somebody else around the world is preparing to beat you in the race. They're dealing with the same conditions as you are. My brother made a good point today. My nephew ran a great 5 mile in his cross country race. He was kind of upset with the time, but we were talking about different times, and my brother said it perfectly. He said, well, everybody had to race in the conditions. And at the end of the day, you can go back and think, well, I should have did this, or if the weather would have been this way, or if the course conditions would have been better, I would have ran faster. Everybody has to race in those conditions. So if you get to a race, whether in late 2021 or 2022, and the conditions aren't great, so remember, everybody that's around you has to deal with the same thing you have to deal with. So let them stress out. If you've put your heart into the preparation, you've done your homework and training, there's nothing that anyone in that race is going to be able to try to throw at you that you haven't already experienced. That's how I trained to break 2 hours and 20 minutes. I spent sufficient time running well under 5-minute mile pace. I remember doing mile repeats at 6,400 feet at Cheyenne Mountain High School by myself, 6 1-mile repetitions between 444 to 447 with I got to a point where I could do those with 90 seconds rest in between each one by myself with no one. And then I've had times where I've had athletes that were better than me, sub 4-minute milers out there hitting their reps in 428 to 429s at altitude, and I'm back running 444s to 445s. So you have to have that mindset that, hey, it's not always going to be perfect. I'm not always going to have somebody to train with. My schedule may not always it might not be as accommodating for me in leading up to my races or leading up to my workouts. Stay the course. And my story with breaking 2 hours and 20 minutes, that was without question, like I said, the hardest thing I've ever done in sport. I finished 4th place, top American in that race. It was an incredible day. It was a huge relief. It was from running from 1992 all the way to 2007. A combination of hard anaerobic workouts, hard speed sessions, long runs, disappointments, setbacks, doubts, getting over all those hurdles that got me to a point that I could run under sub 2 hour, 20-minute marathon. So I hope this video helps you in some way. Just hearing it, knowing that somebody with not a great deal of talent but an enormous amount of work ethic could do it. And I want to share that with you because I know all of you have your own goals that you have in mind, and you have other goals that are kind of just crazy goals that you think maybe you're not capable of doing. Never say never, because even I always felt I could break 2 hours and 22 minutes, but I knew that to break 2 hours and 20 minutes, really, I had to be perfect. Everything had to go right. All I remember from the race that I hope that you can just remember for your races as well is I was totally relaxed. We were joking at the start line, totally relaxed. It was a cool morning, about 42 degrees at the start in Sacramento at the California International Marathon. Very light wind. I don't, if you're going to run a fast time, go to Rotterdam, go to Columbus, go to Chicago. California International Marathon, I think it's a great race. It's a net downhill race, but there's so many rolling hills on it. There are 2 sharp downhills at during the first mile and at the 10-mile point. Right as you pass the 10-mile mark, you make a right-hand turn and then you go sharp, down a sharp hill, and then again it just starts going up and down. It's rolling hills, flat sections. I would have never thought in my wildest dreams I would have ran 2:19 on that course. I always dreamed of running under 2 hours and 20 minutes on maybe like Columbus, Rotterdam or Chicago. It was never California International Marathon. So pick the right race at the right time of the year. I'll tell you another race I highly recommend going for a fast time on is the monumental Indianapolis Marathon. I ran 2:26:42 in 2011 there for 5th place. The course is flat. The competition is always awesome. It's for the most part flat. It's got a couple rollers, but nothing major. It's mostly flat. That is another great race that I highly recommend you go for if you're going to go for a fast marathon time. So if you have any other questions or concerns, if you want to know anything about any other further details about how I ran pretty much 2 sub 1:10 half marathons back to back, leave me a comment below. I'm always available, as you guys and gals already know. If you're wanting to take your racing and your preparation to the next level, check out the resources below all of my videos. Whether it's a running course and you want to get more one-on-one consultation with me, and you want a running course and something more in depth, or you want a training program for anywhere from the mile up to the marathon distance, those resources are there for you as well. So I wish you all the very best in your training and your preparation, and I hope this video motivates you and helps take you to the next level, mentally as well as physically. Remember, whatever you're trying to do, it has to start in the mind first. You have to see it before it becomes reality. Speak what you want into existence before it occurs. There's power in that. So I hope that hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope you continue to get big PRs and you continue to learn from these videos. I hope they're helpful for you all, and I really enjoy hearing from all of you from around the world that are telling me about your successes. And just hearing your training, and it fires me up as well. So wish you guys all the best, the very best, and I will talk to you all in the next video.